Welcome back to Dark Revenge Chronicles. Today's story takes you deep into the shadows of the criminal underworld, where power meets passion and danger is just another word for desire. This is The Devil's Bargain, a dark mafia romance that will leave you breathless. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories. Now, let's begin. The rain hammered against the windows of the Red Velvet nightclub like angry fists demanding entry. Elena Martinez wiped down the mahogany bar for the third time that night, her movements mechanical, automatic. But her hands trembled slightly, not from the cold October air that seeped through the old building's cracks, but from the envelope that had arrived at her apartment that morning. Blood-red wax seal, no return address. Heavy cream paper that spoke of old money and older power. Inside, just 5 words written in elegant calligraphy that made her blood run cold. Your father's debt is due. $3 million. That's what her father had borrowed from the Vitale crime family before he disappeared 6 months ago, leaving nothing behind but debts, broken promises, and a daughter who was now expected to pay for his sins. And in the world of organized crime, debts were always paid. One way or another. Elena had grown up knowing about the Vitales, the way children in her neighborhood grew up knowing about the police or the fire department. They were simply a fact of life in this city. They controlled the docks, the construction contracts, the gambling operations. They were ghosts in expensive suits who moved through the shadows, making and breaking lives with a phone call. She'd never imagined she'd end up on their radar. She was nobody. A bartender working 3 jobs to make ends meet, sending money to her mother in Florida every week, living in a studio apartment where the heating barely worked. She had nothing they could want. Nothing except her father's debt hanging around her neck like a noose. The club was nearly empty at 11 on a Tuesday night. Just a few regulars nursing their drinks in dark corners, and Marcus, the bouncer, standing by the door scrolling through his phone. Elena glanced at the clock. 1 more hour until closing. 1 more hour until she could go home, lock her door, and pretend that envelope didn't exist. That's when the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The door opened, and Marcus straightened immediately, his hand falling away from his phone. The few customers in the club looked up, and Elena watched as fear flickered across their faces. They knew. Everyone in this neighborhood knew. Dante Vitale had entered the building. He moved like a predator, 6 feet 2 inches of lean muscle wrapped in a black suit that probably cost more than Elena made in a year. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and cold beauty. But it was his eyes that made Elena's breath catch. Coal black, emotionless, the kind of eyes that had seen too much and felt too little. At 35, Dante Vitale was the youngest Don in the city's history. They called him Il Diavolo, the devil, and the nickname wasn't affectionate. He'd earned it through ruthlessness, intelligence, and an absolute lack of mercy for anyone who crossed him. Rumors said he'd killed his first man at 16. Other rumors said his father had died under mysterious circumstances, leaving Dante to take over the family business a decade ago. No one knew what was true. No one dared ask. He was flanked by 2 men in dark suits, their jackets bulging slightly where their weapons rested. But Dante himself appeared unarmed, his hands casually in his pockets as he surveyed the room like a king surveying his kingdom. His voice, when he spoke, was deep and smooth, carrying an authority that made it clear he was used to being obeyed. Everyone out now. It wasn't a request. It was a command, delivered in a tone that suggested terrible consequences for disobedience. Marcus practically sprinted out the door. The customers abandoned their drinks, scrambling for the exit like rats fleeing a sinking ship. Within 30 seconds, the club was empty except for Elena, Dante, and his 2 guards. Elena stood frozen behind the bar, her heart hammering against her ribs. She should run. Every instinct screamed at her to bolt for the back exit, but her legs wouldn't move. She was a rabbit caught in the gaze of a wolf, paralyzed by the certainty of what was coming. Dante's eyes locked onto hers, and she felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. He moved toward the bar with the unhurried confidence of a man who knew no one would dare stop him. His guards remained by the door, hands folded in front of them, faces expressionless. "Elena Martinez," he said, and hearing her name in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. "We need to talk about your inheritance." She found her voice, though it came out steadier than she felt. "I don't have $3 million. I can barely make rent." A ghost of a smile touched his lips, but there was no warmth in it. "I know. I've had people watching you for months. You work here until midnight. Then you're at the diner on Fifth Avenue until 8 in the morning, and 3 afternoons a week you clean offices downtown. You send $500 to your mother in Tampa every Friday. You haven't bought yourself new clothes in a year. You're living on ramen and coffee." He paused, his head tilting slightly. "You're admirable, actually. Loyal, hardworking, a rare commodity in my world. But unfortunately, honor and determination don't pay debts." The casual invasion of her privacy should have terrified her. Instead, Elena felt a flash of anger cut through her fear. "You've been spying on me? I do my homework on anyone who owes me money. Your father borrowed $3 million 18 months ago to cover gambling debts and a failed business venture. The terms were clear. 24 months to repay, with interest. He ran instead." Dante reached the bar, leaning against it with an elegance that seemed at odds with his reputation for violence. "That makes you responsible. That's insane." "I didn't borrow anything. I didn't even know—" "Family debt," he interrupted, his voice hardening. "In my world, family debt passes down. Your father knew the terms. He accepted them. And now they're yours." Elena's hands gripped the edge of the bar. "So what happens now? You kill me? That won't get you your money back." He laughed, a low sound that held genuine amusement. "Kill you? No, piccola. That would be wasteful, and I'm not a wasteful man. Besides, you have something far more valuable than money. What could I possibly have that a man like you would want?" Dante circled around the bar, entering her space with the casual confidence of someone who had never been denied anything. Up close, she could see the faint scar along his jawline, the way his expensive cologne mixed with something darker, more dangerous. He was beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. Sharp, cold, deadly. He stopped inches from her, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. When he spoke, his voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Intimate and terrifying. "Yourself? Marry me. 6 months? Play the role of my devoted wife. Help me secure a business deal that requires a softer image. Do this convincingly and your father's debt disappears. You'll be free, your mother will be safe, and you can go back to your life as if none of this ever happened." Elena stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "You want me to marry you?" "A marriage of convenience. A performance. Nothing more. This is insane." "You could have any woman in this city." "I don't want any woman," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "I need someone real. Someone who hasn't been corrupted by this life. Someone who doesn't know how to play the games that women in my circles play." He reached up and Elena flinched, but he only tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear, his touch surprisingly gentle. "The Castellano family controls the shipping routes I need to expand my legitimate business operations. They're old-fashioned, traditional. They won't do business with a man they see as a heartless monster. But a man in love? A man with a beautiful wife who looks at him with genuine affection? A man who's settling down, starting a family? That man they can trust. That man they can respect. You want me to lie for you? I want you to act. Think of it as theater. You'll be my wife in public, convincingly enough that the Castellanos believe it's real. 6 months? That's how long it will take to finalize the deal. Then we'll have a quiet divorce. You'll walk away with enough money to never have to work 3 jobs again, and your family's debt is erased. And in private? In private, we maintain boundaries. You'll have your own bedroom, your own space. I won't touch you, won't demand anything beyond the performance. We'll be strangers sharing a house, nothing more." Elena's mind raced. It was insane. Marrying a mafia boss? Pretending to love a man who could end her life with a word, entering a world of violence and crime she'd spent her whole life trying to avoid. But what choice did she have? If she refused, what would happen? She'd heard the stories. People who crossed the Vitales didn't just lose money. They lost everything. "What's to stop you from killing me after the 6 months?" she asked. "Once you have what you want?" "My word," he said simply. "Which I know means nothing to you. But it's all I can offer. I'm many things, Elena. A criminal. A murderer. A man who's done terrible things to maintain power. But I keep my promises. Always. If I say you'll be safe, you'll be safe." "And if I refuse?" His expression didn't change, but something flickered in those dark eyes. "Regret, maybe. Or perhaps just calculation. Then I'll have to collect the debt another way. And trust me, Piccola, you don't want that. Neither do I." The threat hung in the air between them, unspoken but crystal clear. Elena thought of her mother, alone in Florida, barely surviving on Social Security and the money Elena sent. She thought of the life she'd built, small and struggling as it was. She thought of the impossible situation her father had left her in. "What are the rules?" she asked quietly. Dante's lips curved into something that might have been approval. "Smart girl. You'll live in my estate, attend events with me as my fiancé and then wife. We'll have a small, private wedding ceremony in 2 weeks. You'll need to be convincing in public, affectionate, attentive, playing the role of a woman madly in love. The Castellanos will be watching, judging. One wrong move, one hint that it's not real, and the deal falls through. And in private? In private, we're civil, respectful. You're free to do as you please within the estate, go where you want within reason. I'll provide you with everything you need, clothes, money, anything. Your mother will receive a monthly stipend, generous enough to live comfortably. After 6 months, you'll walk away with $1 million and your freedom. $1 million, considerate payment for services rendered. You're helping me secure a deal worth 50 times that amount. It's only fair you're compensated." Elena's head spun. $1 million. She could pay off her debts, help her mother, maybe even go back to school like she'd always dreamed. 6 months. Just 6 months of pretending, and she could have a real life. But at what cost? She looked into Dante's eyes, searching for something human, something that would tell her this wasn't a mistake. But all she saw was cold calculation and a predator's patience. "One condition," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "My mother doesn't know the truth. As far as she's concerned, we met, fell in love, and got married quickly. She's a romantic. If she knew this was fake, it would break her heart." "Agreed. And after 6 months, I never see you again." Something passed across his face, too quick to read. "If that's what you want." Elena took a deep breath, feeling like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump into darkness. "Then I accept. I'll marry you." Dante extended his hand and she took it. His grip was firm, warm, and when their skin touched, she felt an unexpected jolt of electricity. His eyes held hers for a long moment, and she could have sworn she saw something flicker in their depths. But then it was gone, and he was all business again. "My men will come by your apartment tomorrow to help you pack. Bring whatever you want. The wedding will be in 2 weeks at my estate. Small ceremony, just immediate family and a few witnesses. And Elena?" He leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "Welcome to the family." Then he was gone, moving toward the door with his guards falling into step behind him. The door closed, and Elena was alone in the empty club, her hand still tingling where he'd touched her, her heart racing with fear and something else she didn't want to name. She'd just made a deal with the devil, and deep down, in a place she didn't want to acknowledge, a small part of her wondered what it would be like to belong to a man like Dante Vitale. Even if it was only for 6 months, even if it was only pretend. The Vitale estate sat on 20 acres in the hills overlooking the city, a sprawling mansion that looked like it had been transplanted from a European castle. High walls, security cameras, guards at every entrance. It was a fortress disguised as a home, and as Elena's car passed through the iron gates, she felt like she was entering a prison. The moving truck had come the day before, taking her meager possessions, a few boxes of clothes, some books, photos of her mother. Everything she owned fit into a single bedroom. Now, Sitting in the back of a black Mercedes, driven by one of Dante's men, she watched the estate grow larger through the window and tried to calm her racing heart. This was really happening. She was about to move in with the most dangerous man in the city. She was going to marry him in 2 weeks. The thought made her nauseous. The car stopped in front of massive oak doors, and a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a neat bun opened them. "Miss Martinez, welcome. I'm Maria, the house manager. Mr. Vitale asked me to show you to your room and help you get settled." Elena followed Maria through a marble foyer that looked like it belonged in a museum, up a sweeping staircase and down a hallway lined with expensive artwork. Her new bedroom was larger than her entire apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens, a king-sized bed, and an ensuite bathroom that featured a tub big enough to swim in. "Your things are in the closet," Maria said, gesturing to a door that opened to reveal a walk-in closet twice the size of her old bedroom. "But Mr. Vitale has arranged for a stylist to come tomorrow. You'll need appropriate clothing for the events you'll be attending." "Where is he?" Elena asked. "Mr. Vitale? In his study. He's been there since dawn. That man works too hard." Maria smiled warmly. "But he'll join you for dinner at 7. Until then, please make yourself at home. If you need anything at all, just pick up any phone and dial 0. Someone will help you." When Maria left, Elena sank onto the edge of the bed, overwhelmed. This room alone probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. The sheets were silk, the furniture was antique, and through the windows, she could see gardens that looked like they required a full-time staff to maintain. She was so far out of her depth, she couldn't even see the surface anymore. A knock on the door made her jump. "Come in?" Dante entered and she stood automatically, feeling like she should curtsy or something equally ridiculous. He'd changed from his suit into dark slacks and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, exposing strong forearms. Somehow he looked even more dangerous in casual clothes. "Settling in?" he asked, his voice neutral. "It's a lot to take in," he nodded, moving to the window. "I wanted to go over some ground rules before dinner. My family will be here tomorrow to meet you. My mother, my sister Isabella, and my younger brother Marco. They believe this is real. As far as they're concerned, we met a few months ago and fell in love quickly. I've told them you're shy, private, which should explain why they haven't met you before now. You lied to your family? I'm protecting them. The less they know about my business, the safer they are." He turned to face her. "They'll love you. My mother has been trying to marry me off for years. Just be yourself, be kind, and they'll welcome you with open arms. And the Castellanos? You'll meet them at the engagement party next week. Alessandro Castellano is the patriarch. Old-fashioned, traditional, deeply Catholic. He values family above all else. His sons, Lorenzo and Gabriel, run the day-to-day operations. They're smart, suspicious, and they'll be watching you closely for any sign this isn't legitimate." Elena's stomach nodded. "No pressure, then. You'll be fine. Just follow my lead and remember you're supposed to be in love with me. That means looking at me like I hang the moon. Touching me frequently. Nothing inappropriate. Just casual affection. And defending me if anyone questions my character. That might be hard since I don't know anything about your character." He studied her for a long moment. "Fair point. What do you want to know?" "Everything. If I'm supposed to be your wife, I should know basic things about you. What's your favorite food? What do you do for fun? What makes you happy?" "I don't have fun, and happiness is a luxury I can't afford," he said flatly. "But I'll give you the details you need. I'm 35. I take my coffee black, no sugar. I don't drink often, but when I do, it's whiskey, neat. I read before bed, mostly military history and philosophy. I run every morning at 5. I don't have close friends because in my position, friendship is a liability. I play chess, though I rarely find worthy opponents. And I haven't been in a real relationship in over 10 years because no one wants to love a man like me." The last part was delivered without emotion, a simple statement of fact. But Elena heard the weariness underneath it, the resignation. "Why not?" she asked softly. "Because I'm a monster. Because I've done things that would give you nightmares. Because loving me is a death sentence, and I care enough about the women in my life not to put them through that. He moved toward the door. Dinner is at 7. Dress casually. And Elena? Thank you for doing this. I know it wasn't really a choice, but I appreciate it nonetheless. He left before she could respond, the door clicking shut behind him. Elena sat back down on the bed, her mind spinning. There had been something in his voice, a crack in the armor. For just a moment, she'd seen past the mob boss to the man underneath. And that man seemed very, very alone. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparations. The stylist came, filling Elena's closet with designer dresses, shoes, jewelry. She met Dante's family. His mother, Rosa, a warm Italian woman who cried with joy at meeting her future daughter-in-law. His sister, Isabella, sharp and protective but ultimately kind. And Marco, the youngest Vitale, who seemed to be trying to escape the family business by becoming a lawyer. They were nothing like she'd expected. They were loving, chaotic, and genuinely happy about the wedding. Rosa hugged her like she was already family. Isabella took her shopping and shared embarrassing stories about Dante as a child. Marco promised to help her whenever she needed anything. It made the lies so much harder. The engagement party was held at the estate, a glittering affair with over 200 guests. Elena wore a white cocktail dress that probably cost more than her car, and stood beside Dante as he introduced her to business associates, family friends, and the Castellanos. Alessandro Castellano was exactly as Dante had described, a silver-haired man in his 70s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His sons flanked him, both in their 40s, watching Elena with polite suspicion. "So you're the woman who's tamed Il Diavolo," Alessandro said, his accent thick. "I never thought I'd see the day." Elena smiled, feeling Dante's arm around her waist, warm and solid. "I didn't tame him. I just saw past the reputation to the man underneath." "And what did you find?" She looked up at Dante, and for a moment she let herself forget this was all an act. She thought about the man who called his mother every Sunday without fail, who'd anonymously paid for his gardener's daughter's cancer treatment, who read philosophy before bed and seemed so tired of the violence that defined his life. "I found someone worth loving," she said softly. Alessandro's expression softened. "Then he's a lucky man. My wife passed 5 years ago, God rest her soul. Not a day goes by I don't miss her. Hold on to love when you find it, young lady. In our world, it's the only thing that matters." Later, as they danced to a slow song, Dante pulled her close. "You were perfect," he murmured against her ear. "Alessandro is convinced." "I wasn't acting," Elena admitted before she could stop herself. Dante tensed, pulling back slightly to look at her. "What? When I told him you were worth loving?" "I wasn't acting. You're not what I expected, Dante. You're not just a monster." "Don't," he said, his voice rough. "Don't romanticize me, Elena. You don't know half of what I've done." "Then tell me." "No. Because if I did, you'd look at me differently. And I'm not ready for that yet." The vulnerability in his voice caught her off guard. This powerful, dangerous man was afraid of what she'd think of him. It was humanizing in a way that made her chest ache. The wedding itself was small, intimate. Just family and a handful of close associates. Elena wore a simple white dress, not wanting anything too elaborate for what was essentially a business arrangement. But as she walked down the aisle toward Dante, seeing him in a tuxedo with an expression she couldn't quite read, something shifted inside her. This was supposed to be fake, a performance. But when he took her hands in his, when the priest asked if she took this man to be her husband, when she said "I do" and meant it more than she should, Elena realized she was in trouble, because somewhere between the fear and the pretense and the carefully constructed lies, she'd started to fall for the devil who'd bought her, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. The first month of marriage was a careful dance of proximity and distance. By day, they were the perfect couple, attending charity galas, hosting dinner parties, presenting a united front to the world. Elena learned to read Dante's moods, to know when to touch his arm reassuringly or when to step in with a charming comment to smooth over tense business discussions. She was good at it. Better than she'd expected. And the more time she spent in Dante's world, the more she understood the complexity of what he did. Yes, he was a criminal. But he was also a man trying to transition his family's empire into legitimate business. A man who protected the people in his territory, who had a code of honor even if it didn't match society's definition. But at night, they retreated to separate bedrooms, polite, distant, maintaining the boundaries they'd agreed upon. It was slowly killing her, because every dinner conversation revealed more. She learned that Dante spoke 4 languages fluently, that he'd wanted to be an architect before his father died, and he inherited the family business at 25. That he donated millions to charity anonymously because he believed in giving back to the community his family had taken so much from. She learned that he had nightmares. She'd hear him pacing his room at 3 a.m, and twice she'd found him in the library, reading by lamplight with shadows under his eyes. "Can't sleep?" she'd asked one night, appearing in the doorway in her pajamas. He'd looked up from his book, surprise flickering across his face. "I rarely do. And you? I heard you pacing." "Sorry, I'll be quieter. That's not why I came down." She'd entered the room, curling up in the leather chair across from him. "Tell me about the nightmares." "What makes you think I have nightmares?" "You scream sometimes? Not loud, but I can hear it through the walls." He'd closed his book slowly. "The things I've done. The people I've hurt. They don't go away just because it's dark. Every man I've killed, every decision that destroyed lives, they're all there, waiting for me when I close my eyes." "Do you regret it?" "Some of it. Most of it, maybe. But regret doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring back the dead or undo the harm. It's just a weight I carry." Elena had wanted to go to him then, to offer comfort. But she'd stayed in her chair, maintaining the distance between them. "For what it's worth, I think you're trying to be better. That counts for something, does it? Or am I just a monster trying to pretend I'm human?" "You are human. Flawed and complicated and sometimes terrifying, but human." They'd sat in silence after that, and eventually, Elena had fallen asleep in the chair. She'd woken at dawn to find herself covered with a blanket, and Dante was gone. The engagement with the Castellanos was progressing. Weekly dinners, negotiation meetings, careful relationship building. Alessandro and his sons were warming to Dante, seeing him as a family man now, someone they could trust. Lorenzo had even invited them to his daughter's communion, a significant honor that indicated acceptance. Everything was going according to plan. Except Elena's heart was no longer cooperating with the plan. She found herself watching Dante when he didn't know she was looking, noticing the way he was gentle with his mother, protective of his sister, patient with Marco's idealistic views about leaving the family business. She saw how the household staff adored him, how he remembered everyone's names and asked about their families. The mask he wore for the world, cold, ruthless, untouchable, would slip when he was home, and she'd catch glimpses of who he might have been if life hadn't made him into Il Diavolo. It terrified her, because in 3 more months, she'd have to walk away from him, and she was starting to think that might break her. One night, unable to sleep, she found him in his study at midnight. He was in shirt sleeves, tie discarded, staring at spreadsheets with a glass of whiskey at his elbow. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up, and for once, he didn't hide his exhaustion. "Numbers for the shipping deal. Something doesn't add up. Can I help? Do you know international trade law?" "No, but I'm good with numbers. I used to balance 3 jobs worth of tips and paychecks. I might see something you're missing." He gestured to the chair across from his desk, and she spent the next 2 hours going through contracts with him. She found the discrepancy, a subtle double billing scheme buried in the fine print. Dante's face when he realized it was a mixture of admiration and frustration. "How did you catch that?" "I've had accountants looking at these for weeks. Fresh eyes. And I'm used to spotting when someone's trying to cheat me out of money. Happens a lot in the service industry." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You're wasted working bars and diners, you know." "You're smart." Really smart. Can't afford college on what I make. Made. The correction felt awkward. She wasn't that person anymore. At least not for a few more months. What would you study? If money wasn't an issue? Business, maybe. Or accounting. I like numbers. They make sense in a way people don't. You should do it. After this is over, use the money to get your degree. After this is over, the words hung between them, a reminder that this was temporary, that soon she'd leave and they'd become strangers again. Dante? She said his name softly, uncertain. Yes? Do you ever wish this was real? The question surprised them both. He went very still, his dark eyes locked on hers. Don't ask me that. Why not? Because if I answer honestly, it changes everything. Her heart hammered in her chest. Maybe I want it to change. He stood abruptly, moving to the window, putting distance between them. You don't know what you're saying. This is the situation, the proximity. Stockholm Syndrome, maybe? But it's not real. How do you know? Because love doesn't happen like this, he said, his voice harsh. You can't fall for your captor. You can't develop feelings for someone who forced you into this situation. You didn't force me. You gave me a choice. Some choice. Do this or suffer the consequences. That's not choice, Elena. That's coercion. She moved toward him, driven by something she didn't fully understand. Then let me choose now. No debt, no deals, no business arrangements. Just two people in a room. Elena, do you wish this was real? She asked again, standing close enough to feel the heat of his body. He looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, Dante Vitale looked vulnerable, lost. Every single day, he admitted roughly. From the moment you agreed to this insane arrangement, I've wished it was real. But wanting something doesn't make it right. Why not? Because I'm not good for you. Because you deserve better than a man with blood on his hands. Because when this is over, you should run as far from me as possible and never look back. What if I don't want to run? You should. But what if I don't? He closed his eyes, his jaw clenched. Don't do this. Don't make this harder than it already is. It's only hard because we're both pretending we don't feel it, she whispered. This thing between us, it's not fake anymore, is it? When he opened his eyes, they were burning with an intensity that stole her breath. No, it's not fake. But that doesn't mean we should act on it. Why not? Because in 2 months, you're supposed to walk away. And if we cross this line, if we make this real, I don't think I'll be able to let you go. The confession hung in the air between them, raw and honest. Elena's heart raced. This was the moment, the choice. She could step back, maintain the boundaries, finish out the arrangement as planned. Or she could step forward into the unknown and see what happened when you made a deal with the devil and then fell in love with him. She stepped forward. Elena. Her name was a warning. A plea. I'm choosing this, she said softly. No deals, no debt. Just me choosing you. For a long moment, Dante didn't move. Then, with a sound that was half surrender, half desperation, he grabbed her wrist and pulled her against him. If we do this, there's no going back. Do you understand? I won't be able to give you up when the 6 months are over. Then don't. The kiss, when it came, was nothing like she'd imagined. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was consuming, desperate, like a man dying of thirst finally finding water. His hands tangled in her hair, and she gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, needing to eliminate every inch of space between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. This is a mistake. I don't care. You should. I'm going to ruin you. Maybe I want to be ruined. He laughed, a rough sound. God help us both. What followed was a collision of need and restraint, passion barely held in check by the last threads of Dante's control. He lifted her onto his desk, scattering papers, and she wrapped her legs around him, 6 weeks of tension and denied feelings finally breaking free. Are you sure? He asked, his voice strained. Because once we do this, once I have you, I won't be civilized about sharing you or letting you go. I'm sure. The night blurred into sensation and emotion. Every touch was a revelation. Every kiss was a promise. And when dawn finally crept through the windows, Elena lay in Dante's arms in his bedroom, their bedroom now, feeling like the world had shifted on its axis. "I should probably regret this," she murmured against his chest. "Should you?" His fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. "Yeah, but I don't." "Good. Because I've never been less sorry about anything in my life." He tilted her face up to look at him. "I meant what I said, Elena. I can't let you go now. The arrangement is off. This is real or nothing. What about the Castellanos? The deal? Still needs to happen, but not as a performance. As truth, you're my wife. Not for 6 months. For as long as you'll have me." "That's a long time, considering you're stuck with me." He smiled, a real smile that transformed his face. "I can live with that." The next few weeks were a revelation. The pretense was gone, replaced by something real and terrifying and beautiful. Dante was different when he wasn't holding back. Attentive, protective to the point of possessiveness, and surprisingly tender for a man known for his ruthlessness. He'd pull her into his lap during morning coffee, steal kisses between meetings, hold her hand under the table during dinners. The staff noticed the change immediately. Maria started humming love songs while she worked. Even the guards seemed more relaxed, as if their boss's happiness created a ripple effect through the entire household. But it wasn't all perfect. Dante's world was dangerous, and Elena was starting to understand exactly what that meant. The first real threat came on a Tuesday evening. Elena was in the garden reading under the pergola when Dante's phone rang inside. She heard his voice change, the warmth draining away into cold fury. "Where?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause. "Handle it." "I'm on my way." He appeared in the doorway, already pulling on his suit jacket, his face a mask of controlled rage. "I have to go." "Stay inside. Don't answer the door for anyone." "Marcus and Tony will be here. What's wrong?" "Someone tried to hit one of our warehouses." "I need to deal with it." Fear gripped her chest. "Dante!" He crossed to her in 3 strides, cupping her face in his hands. "I'll be fine." "This is what I do, but I need to know you're safe here. Please be careful. Always." He kissed her, hard and fast. "I love you." "Remember that." The words shocked them both. It was the first time either of them had said it out loud. Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. Come back to me." "Nothing could keep me away." He left, and Elena spent the next 4 hours pacing the house, jumping at every sound. Maria brought her tea she couldn't drink. The guards checked the perimeter every 30 minutes. And Elena learned what it meant to love a man who lived with violence. When Dante finally returned at midnight, there was blood on his shirt and a fresh cut above his eyebrow. Elena ran to him, her hands shaking as she touched his face. "Are you hurt?" "Is this your blood?" "Not all of it." He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "I need a shower. Then I need you." She helped him undress, trying not to look at the bruises forming on his ribs, the split knuckles on his right hand. In the shower, she washed the blood away while he stood silent, letting her care for him. Later, in bed, he told her what had happened. A rival family trying to move in on his territory. A confrontation that turned violent. 3 men dead, 2 of them rivals, 1 of his own. The latter haunted his voice. Tommy, 26, wife and a baby on the way. I promised his wife I'd take care of them. But it doesn't bring him back. I'm sorry. This is my life, Elena. This is what you're choosing. Blood and violence and people dying because of decisions I make. Are you sure you can handle it? She thought about lying, about reassuring him without reservation. But he deserved honesty. I don't know. It terrifies me. But losing you terrifies me more. So yes, I can handle it. Because the alternative is a life without you, and I can't imagine that anymore. He pulled her on top of him, his hands sliding into her hair. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish. Maybe both. Definitely both. He kissed her softly. Thank you. For what? For not running. For staying. For loving a monster. You're not a monster. You're a man trying to protect what's his in a world that doesn't play fair. That's a generous interpretation. It's the truth. The violence became part of their reality. Not constant, but present enough that Elena learned to live with the fear. She learned to read Dante's moods, to know when something had gone wrong before he said a word. She learned to patch him up when he came home injured, to hold him when the nightmares got bad, to be his peace in a world of chaos. And slowly, she began to understand the empire he was building. The transition from illegal operations to legitimate business wasn't just about respectability. It was about creating something that could last, that wouldn't require bloodshed and violence to maintain. The Castellano deal was crucial to that vision. The final dinner with the Castellanos was held at their estate, a massive compound that made even Dante's mansion look modest. Alessandro greeted them warmly, his sons more relaxed now, the suspicion replaced by genuine respect. Over wine and a 7-course meal, they finalized the details. The Castellanos would provide access to their shipping routes and port operations. Dante would handle distribution and security. Together, they'd create a network that could move legitimate goods across the globe, a foundation for both families to transition into legal business. To partnership, Alessandro said, raising his glass. And to love. Without your wife, Dante, I don't think I could have trusted you. But a man who looks at a woman the way you look at Elena, that's a man who understands what matters. After dinner, as they stood on the terrace overlooking the city, Lorenzo Castellano approached them. My father doesn't know this, but I did my research on you two. I know the timeline doesn't quite add up. I know you got married very quickly. Elena's heart stopped. Dante's arm around her waist tightened. Lorenzo smiled. But I also know that sometimes love happens fast. My wife and I knew each other 3 weeks before I proposed. When you know, you know. I just wanted to say, whatever brought you together, it's real now. Anyone can see that. And for what it's worth, I'm glad my father has a partner he can trust. After they left, in the car on the way home, Elena let out a shaky laugh. He knew, he suspected. But he was right. It doesn't matter how it started. It matters what it became. What did it become? Dante pulled her close. Everything. You became everything. But the past has a way of coming back to haunt you. 3 weeks after the Castellano deal was finalized, Elena's father showed up at the estate. She came downstairs one morning to find him in the foyer, looking older, thinner, desperate. Marcus and Tony had him flanked, and Dante stood facing him with an expression of cold fury. Elena, her father said, his voice breaking. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. You need to leave, Dante said, his voice deadly quiet. Now, I just want to talk to my daughter. The daughter you abandoned? The daughter you left to pay your debts? That daughter? Elena found her voice. How did you find me? I saw your wedding announcement in the paper. High society wedding, big connections. I figured you'd married some rich guy, but I didn't know. He looked at Dante, fear flickering across his face. I didn't know it was him. You borrowed $3 million from me, Dante said. Then you ran, leaving Elena to face the consequences. Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you where you stand. Dante, please. Elena stepped forward. Stay back. He didn't look at her. His eyes locked on her father. He doesn't deserve your mercy, I know. But he's still my father. She turned to the man who'd failed her so completely. Why are you here? I'm in trouble. The people I borrowed from in Florida, they're coming after me. I need money to disappear for good. The audacity of it stunned her into silence. He'd abandoned her, left her to pay his debts, and now he wanted more money. Get out, Dante said, before I do something Elena will hate me for. Please. I'm desperate. You should have thought about that before you gambled away everything and left your daughter to clean up your mess. Dante moved closer, and even Elena felt the menace radiating from him. You have 10 seconds to leave this property. If I ever see you again, if you ever try to contact Elena again, I will make you disappear in ways that will make your nightmares look pleasant. Do you understand? Her father ran. Actually ran, scrambling out the door like the coward he was. Elena stood frozen, a complicated mix of emotions warring inside her. When the door closed, Dante turned to her. Are you all right? I don't know. I thought I'd have more to say to him if I ever saw him again. But I just felt nothing. He doesn't deserve your emotions. Any of them, I know. But he's still the reason I met you. If he hadn't left me with his debt, we never would have. She stopped, the full weight of it hitting her. God, that's twisted, isn't it? Being grateful for something that started so horribly, Dante pulled her into his arms. Love is always a little twisted. Ours is just more honest about it. But the incident shook something loose in Elena. That night, lying in bed, she finally asked the question that had been haunting her. The debt. It's really gone, right? I don't owe you anything? Dante rolled over to face her. You never owed me anything. The moment you agreed to marry me, the debt was erased. But what if I'd left after 6 months? Like we originally planned? Then you would have left, and the debt still would have been gone. I would have honored our agreement. Why? Why would you let me go if you'd started having feelings for me? He was quiet for a long moment. Because keeping you against your will would have made me the monster everyone thinks I am. Because love means letting someone choose you freely, not because they're trapped. And because you deserve to have a real life, not one shackled to a criminal. I chose you. I know, and I thank God for it every day. He kissed her softly. But Elena, you need to understand something. My world is dangerous. It's getting safer with the legitimate business operations, but there are still people who see me as a threat. Rival families, law enforcement, enemies I've made over the years. Being with me puts a target on your back. I know. Do you? Really? He sat up, running a hand through his hair. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you before, but I was selfish and I didn't want to risk losing you. Fear gripped her chest. What? There's a family. The Romanos. They've been trying to take over my territory for years. I've held them off, but they're getting bolder. More violent. And they have a reputation for going after families, wives, children. It's how they operate. They find your weakness and exploit it. Are you saying I'm your weakness? I'm saying you're everything. Which makes you the biggest target. And I don't know if I can keep you safe. Elena processed this, the reality of her situation settling over her like a weight. What are my options? I can send you away. Somewhere safe, with new identity, protection. You'd be free, away from all of this. Without you. Without me. She looked at the man she'd fallen in love with. The complicated, dangerous, surprisingly tender man who'd become her entire world. That's not an option. Elena, no, I'm not leaving. We face this together or not at all. You could die. We all die eventually. I'd rather live with you for whatever time we have than exist safely without you. He closed his eyes, pain written across his features. You're going to kill me with that kind of devotion. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. He pulled her close, holding her like he was afraid she'd disappear. I will protect you. Whatever it takes. The Romanos will have to go through me to get to you. That's what I'm afraid of. Don't be. I've survived this long by being smarter and more ruthless than everyone else. I'm not about to let some upstart family take what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered her. Instead, it made her feel safe, protected, claimed in a way that went beyond legal marriage or social conventions. The attack came 2 weeks later, on a night when Dante was supposed to be at a business meeting across town. Elena was home alone except for the guards, curled up in the library with a book. The first explosion shattered the windows on the east side of the house. Elena dropped her book, her ears ringing. Then gunfire, sharp cracks that sent her diving behind the desk. Mrs. Vitale! Marcus burst through the door, weapon drawn. We need to move now. He pulled her up, and they ran through the house. More explosions. Smoke filling the hallways. Through the chaos, Elena could hear men shouting, fighting. The Romanos had brought an army. They made it to the safe room, a reinforced bunker beneath the house that Dante had insisted on installing. Marcus sealed the door just as bullets peppered the hallway behind them. Stay here, he ordered. Don't open this door for anyone except me or Mr. Vitale. Where are you going? To help defend the house. You'll be killed. Maybe, but that's the job. He smiled grimly. Don't worry. The boss is on his way. And when he finds out someone attacked his wife, God help the Romanos. Then he was gone. And Elena was alone in the safe room with emergency supplies, weapons she didn't know how to use, and the sound of her own ragged breathing. She had no idea how long she stayed there. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. The sounds of fighting continued above. Then silence. Then more fighting. Her phone had no signal in the bunker. She was blind, helpless, terrified. When the door finally opened, she had a gun raised with shaking hands, not even sure if the safety was off. Elena! Dante's voice rough with smoke and fear. She dropped the gun and ran to him. He caught her, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. He smelled like gunpowder and blood, and when she pulled back, she saw he was injured. A bullet graze on his shoulder, blood soaking his shirt. "You're hurt." "I'm fine. Are you hurt?" "Did they touch you?" "No. Marcus got me to the safe room." "Is he— He's alive. Injured, but alive. Most of the guards made it." The Romanos didn't. His voice hardened. "We killed every single one who attacked this house." Elena should have been horrified. Instead, she felt only relief. Good. He looked at her, searching her face. "Good? They tried to kill us. Tried to take you from me. So yes, good. I'm glad they're dead." Something shifted in his expression, a dark approval. "You're becoming one of us. I became one of you the day I married you. For better or worse, remember? This is definitely worse. I don't care." He kissed her, desperate and claiming. When they broke apart, his eyes were black with fury and something darker. "I'm going to end this. The Romanos, their entire operation. I'm going to burn them to the ground for daring to touch what's mine." How? By doing what I do best. Being the devil they think I am. The war that followed was swift and brutal. Dante didn't just retaliate. He systematically destroyed the Romano family. Their operations, their assets, their alliances. He was ruthless, efficient, and absolutely merciless. Elena watched the man she loved become the monster his reputation promised. And the terrifying thing was, she understood it. This wasn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. This was protection. This was a predator eliminating threats to his mate. Within 2 weeks, the Romano family ceased to exist as a power in the city. The patriarch was in prison, evidence of his crimes anonymously delivered to the FBI. His sons were scattered, running from warrants and enemies. Their business empire collapsed overnight, and everyone in the city's underworld learned a valuable lesson. Do not touch Dante Vitale's wife. The night it ended, Dante came home to find Elena waiting for him in their bedroom. He looked exhausted, older somehow, the weight of what he'd done written across his features. "It's done," he said quietly. "You're safe now. What did it cost you?" He was silent for a long moment. "Pieces of my soul I didn't know I still had. Any illusion that I could be anything but what I am. The last of my innocence, if I ever had any." Elena went to him, taking his scarred hands in hers. "You did it to protect me. That doesn't make it right." "Maybe not, but it makes it necessary. And I won't let you carry that guilt alone." She pressed her forehead to his. "We're in this together. Your darkness is mine now, too. You shouldn't have to carry my darkness." "Too late. I choose to." He pulled her close, and she felt the tremor run through him. This powerful, dangerous man was shaking in her arms. "I love you. So much it terrifies me. I love you too. The saint and the sinner. The man and the monster. All of it." They made love that night with a desperation that spoke of survival, of gratitude, of two people who'd been through fire and emerged on the other side still together. And afterward, tangled in sheets with dawn creeping through the windows, Elena realized something. She wasn't the girl who'd worked 3 jobs and barely scraped by anymore. She wasn't the woman who'd been forced into a marriage of convenience. She had transformed into someone new, someone stronger, someone capable of loving a complicated man in a complicated world, someone who could stand beside a king of the underworld and not flinch. She had become exactly who she needed to be, and she wouldn't change it for anything. 6 months after the original agreement was supposed to end, Elena sat in Dante's study going over contracts for their latest legitimate business venture. A chain of restaurants that would provide jobs and economic development in struggling neighborhoods. "You're frowning," Dante said, looking up from his laptop. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I'm just thinking about how different my life is now. 6 months ago, I was supposed to walk away with $1 million and my freedom. Instead, I'm here, helping you build an empire, more in love with you than I thought possible." "Regrets?" "Not a single one." She closed the folder and moved around the desk to sit on his lap. "Although I never did finish that conversation with your mother about grandchildren. She brings it up at every Sunday dinner." Dante groaned. "She's relentless. She's sweet, and she has a point. We've been married almost a year. People are going to start wondering, are you saying you want children?" Elena thought about it seriously. "Eventually, yes, with you. Little devils to terrorize the world." "Terrifying thought," says the man who terrorizes the city, former terrorizer. "I'm mostly legitimate now." "Mostly," she agreed with a smile. "But Dante, I need to know something. If we have children, will they be safe? Will they have normal lives, or will they grow up like you did, surrounded by violence?" He was quiet, his hands settling on her hips. "I'm building something different. The legitimate businesses are thriving. The illegal operations are being phased out. In 5 years, maybe less, the Vitale family will be completely clean. Our children won't have to live the way I did. I'm making sure of it. Promise, I promise. Our children will have choices I never had. They'll be safe, protected, free to be whoever they want to be." He paused. "Although knowing our genetics, they'll probably be terrifying regardless." Elena laughed. "Probably. Your stubbornness plus my sharp tongue? The world doesn't stand a chance. The world never did." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and Elena marveled at how natural this felt. How right. She'd fallen into this life accidentally, traded herself to pay a debt she didn't owe, and somehow found everything she'd never known she wanted. "Elena?" Dante's voice was soft. Thank you. For what?" "For seeing past what I was to what I could become. For loving me when I didn't deserve it. For staying when you had every reason to run. For making me believe I could be more than Il Diavolo." She cupped his face in her hands, seeing the vulnerability there, the love, the man behind the reputation. "You were always more. You just needed someone to remind you." He kissed her softly, a kiss full of promise and possibility. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me. And I'm going to spend the rest of mine reminding you that you're worth choosing." The charity gala was in full swing, the city's elite mingling in the ballroom of the Grand Hotel. Elena stood beside Dante, her hand resting on her obviously pregnant belly, watching as he accepted an award for his philanthropic work. "It's an honor," he was saying from the podium, looking distinguished in his tuxedo. "But I can't take credit for most of this. My wife has been the driving force behind our charitable foundation. She saw the need, she built the programs, and she changed countless lives. I just signed the checks." The crowd laughed appreciatively. Elena shook her head, smiling. He always deflected credit, refusing to acknowledge how much he'd changed in the past 2 years. The Vitale empire was completely legitimate now. They owned restaurants, real estate, a security company, and a logistics firm. The illegal operations were gone, dismantled carefully and strategically. Dante had made enemies in the transition, but he'd also earned respect. He'd proven it was possible to leave that life behind. Alessandro Castellano approached after the speech, embracing Dante warmly. "I knew you had it in you. From the moment I met your wife, I knew she'd be the making of you." "She was," Dante agreed, his eyes finding Elena across the room. Later, in the car on the way home, Elena leaned against his shoulder, exhausted. "Your son is using my ribs as a soccer ball. My son? An hour ago, he was your son when he was keeping you up all night. He gets the good traits from me and the violent tendencies from you. Therefore, when he's being difficult, he's your son." Dante laughed, placing his hand over her belly. "I love you. Both of you. All 3 of us, really. 3? I'm including myself. The man you made me? The man I became because of you." Elena's eyes filled with tears. Pregnancy hormones made her emotional about everything. "That's the most beautiful and ridiculous thing you've ever said." I have my moments. At home, after she'd changed into comfortable clothes and Dante had loosened his tie, they ended up in the nursery they'd just finished decorating. Soft blues and grays, bookshelves already filled with children's books, a rocking chair by the window. I'm terrified, Dante admitted, staring at the crib. What if I'm not good at this? What if I mess him up? You won't, how do you know? Because you're already thinking about how to be a good father. Because you've spent 2 years building a safe world for him to grow up in. Because you're capable of so much love, even if you spent years pretending you weren't. She took his hand. You're going to be an amazing father. I never thought I'd have this. A wife I actually love. A child. A life that doesn't revolve around violence and fear. It feels like a dream. It's not a dream. It's what we built together. From a forced arrangement to something real. From darkness into light. He pulled her close, careful of her belly. I made a deal with you 2 years ago. 6 months of pretending in exchange for your freedom. Worst deal I ever made, she teased. Best deal I ever made. Because it brought you to me. Because it gave me a reason to be better. Because it showed me that even the devil can be redeemed by the right woman. Stop. You'll make me cry again, and I've already cried 3 times today. He smiled, kissing her forehead. I love you, Elena Vitale. My wife, my partner. My redemption. I love you too, Dante, my husband. My complicated, wonderful, reformed devil. Outside, the city lights twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there were people who still saw Dante Vitale as a monster, as Il Diavolo, as someone to fear. But in this house, in this moment, he was just a man in love with his wife, waiting for his son to be born, living a life he'd never imagined possible. They'd started with a debt and a bargain. They'd survived violence, danger, and the complications of loving someone from a world that didn't allow for love. But they'd emerged on the other side, stronger, together, transformed, by a love that had started as a performance and become the most real thing either of them had ever known. The devil had made a bargain, and in the end, he'd found redemption in the arms of a woman brave enough to love him. Thank you for listening to The Devil's Bargain. If you enjoyed this dark mafia romance, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment telling me what you thought of Dante and Elena's story and what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous deals lead to the most unexpected love stories. #darkromance. #mafiaromance. #audiostory. #romanticstory. #darklovestory. This has been Dark Tales. Sleep well and dream of dangerous men with redemption in their hearts.